Hi, and welcome to Workshop Weekends with me, Ross. A while back, I posted a video of me cutting grooves with my plow plane. This one, which got a few questions of how this works and if I can make a dedicated video, so I thought this is what I'm going to do today. So this is my plow plane. It's record number 44. It's actually made in England. Not sure when, probably late 19th, early 20th century. This is commonly used to make grooves. So let me show you some of its features and then we go through how to use it. So here is the plane with some of the accessories that come with it. Let's go through everything and show you how it works. So we have the plane here. This is the main body with the handle. Then we have the parallel fence on the side, which can be moved. If we undo those two screws on the side, we can just slide it in and out to adjust it. And once we do that, we can tighten those thumb screws and that's ready to use. Also, those two rods can be replaced. So we can use those two screws here. There's one on this side. And then we can take out these smaller rods. And then I can put those larger ones. Like so. That is to give us a larger capacity on the parallel fence, should we need it. And it works in exactly the same way. We can just slide it in and out. I keep mine with these ones because I mainly use it to make cabinet doors. So let's go back and put those little ones. Actually, I'll keep the fence off so you can see. This is the blade that we have. So this is a separate piece which can be taken out. This is what holds the blade. So once we remove this piece, we can change the cutter. This is a selection of all the other sizes that I have. These, unfortunately for me, are all in imperial sizes. I keep this, which is a 1/4 inch, because again, I make mostly cabinet doors with it. So I use the 1/4 inch because it corresponds to the 1/4 inch AMDF or 6mm AMDF that I'm using. This is the adjustment for the depth of the cut. Once we put the cutter, we have to align it with those grooves on the back, and then we can use a flathead screwdriver to drive it in or out. I try to keep mine finely tuned so it doesn't take too big of a shaving. Then the other thing is this screw here, which if undone allows us to put the bigger cutters. As you can see, it currently doesn't fit, so keep undoing it. And then we can insert the bigger cutters should we need them. Obviously that's way too deep of a cut. I wouldn't do that, but I rarely use those big cutters anyway. Now with this one, I like to have it slightly loose. So I would So I would put it all tight and then I would come back like half a revolution. So the reason for that is once I put my wedge all tight here, I want, you can see the cut at the moment, it's slightly inwards to this surface, which is what goes inside the groove. So try and make it so it goes a little bit past that surface. That way it's just easier to glide in the groove. And then the last thing I have on this side is our depth guide. It has a thumb screw, so once you undo the screw, you can slide it up and down depending on how deep your groove needs to be. And once you have it in place, you can tighten that screw. And what happens is, as you cutting the groove, this whole section gets inside the groove eventually. This hits the top of the piece and prevents you from cutting anymore. And then we put back our parallel fence, and that basically covers our plow plane. Let me show you how it works. Now, unfortunately for me, this is a right-handed tool, so I've got to use my vise backwards because I'm left-handed, but this wouldn't work. You have to apply pressure to the parallel fence and then drive forward like so. So this is why I'm using it backwards, in case you're wondering. The thing we need to do with a plow plane is we start from the end and then slowly work our way backwards. So we start by making a few cuts and slowly working our way backwards. And then we do that until we hit our depth stop on this side. So that's how we know we're done. And this is our groove done. As you can see, mine isn't perfectly centered, which is slightly annoying. I should have moved the fence slightly out so the cutter ends up right in the middle. But that's not a problem for this piece because this is a scrap piece just for the sake of this video. I don't really need that. But if I was to make doors, I would have been more careful and use a couple of scrap pieces just so I can make sure that I get it perfectly centered. And that's how we make the groove for doors, whether that being cabinet doors or big doors. You can do that with the same tool. On bigger doors, I tend to use a router because it's easier, but you can do that on big doors. It can also be used to make groove for the bottom of the drawers. Let me show you how that works. Now the process with that is exactly the same. It's just slightly different way of clamping the piece. Say this is the side for a drawer, and we need to put a groove on the bottom so we can slide our bottom. It's exactly the same thing we do. We start from the edge, we do several cuts, and then slowly we start to make our way backwards. And if this was a drawer, we can use this groove to insert our quarter inch bottom. In this case, I'm just using a piece of MDF, for example. Another use for the plow plane is you can actually use it as a rebate plane, but only on the long grain. So allow me to demonstrate. So all we have to do now in order to cut rebates is bring our parallel fence in to the blade or even further. As you can see, it's got that notch, so we can go over the blade with it. At the moment, it actually exposes about half of the blade. Let's say we want to cut a half-inch rebate. We push our fence to where it's close to the blade, then we tighten the thumb screws, and then we use exactly the same procedure as before. We start from the end of the piece and we start working our way backwards. And that gives us a 1/4-inch rebate. The reason we start from this end and work our way backwards is so we can start taking small shavings and gradually reduce the size of the groove or rebate that we're cutting. Because if we start from this end and then push forward, it means that the cutter would be buried too deep and it will tear out the wood, and also you won't be able to take that full pass in one go. And this is the basic use for plow plane. Essentially, it's used to cut grooves. Now, this is a very versatile tool, and it comes in different sizes. So you can get smaller one, you can get big ones with big fancy ones with a lot more attachments that would allow you to do a hell of a lot more. So normally this is used, as I said, to cut grooves. If you're making tongue and grooves, if you're making doors, windows, all that sort of stuff. On the big ones, there are models out there that come with a cutter, so you can, on this same plane, you can actually cut the tongue and the groove. Normally the tongue is done with a plane like that, and you cut the groove with this one. However, as I said, this is a very versatile tool, and some of the bigger versions of it, you can actually cut the tongue and the groove. And there's some beading cutters, so that allows you to put decorative beads in pieces like you can do with this plane, for example. This is for sash windows. This is one of my favorite tools, not just for my hand tool collection, but in general, I use it a lot, mainly on cabinet doors. I usually have it set up for my cabinet doors, so you can cut in the middle of a 20mm thick stock. But it's a wonderful tool. It cost me about £130. I bought it from a website called oldtools.co.uk. They specialize in resale of vintage tools like that. So it's slightly more expensive than a cheap router, but I don't regret buying it. It's a wonderful tool. I use it as much as possible. I have a huge appreciation for hand tools, as you can see from some of my other bits. But that is the main use of a plow plane, to make grooves. I hope you found this video interesting and somewhat educational. Let me know in the comments what tool you want me to cover next and show you how to use it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.